Welcome to Pedal Down 4x4. This is Tech Tip Tuesdays. Okay, what's up everybody? This is Tech Tip Tuesdays. This is just going to be me talking about some tips, tricks, other little topics here and there. I get a lot of questions on Instagram, so I figure I answer it here. And the first thing I actually want to talk about is building a project car in 2025, or specifically planning a project car in 2025. Now, if you've built a car recently, 2025, 2024, 2020, maybe not 2023, but definitely 24 and 25, you would know it's very difficult. Now, the main reason for that is I'm not sure. I think it's because of the tariffs. Prices have been going up on materials, which means the parts you guys are buying are more expensive. They might even be double the price. A lot of the things that I've had to purchase is double the price of what it used to be. And as well as the waiting time, the waiting period. You would know for this truck, I was waiting for a lot of stuff from Rough Stuff, and that's basically because they didn't have it. They didn't have the items, and their customer service wasn't the best. But that's to do with a lot of things. You might see the green Tacoma behind me right now. Currently waiting for parts for that truck. That's a turbo 3RZ. And we're just waiting for parts. So the first things first is when you're building a project car or you want to start a project in 2025 is you need to know what you're after. Are you after an engine transmission combo, or are you after a certain project car? The reason being said is that some guys just want to build like a turbo 2J, or they want to build a turbo LS, a supercharged LS. They want to build a turbo 1UZ or whatever. You need to know that first. So if you're going to build specifically around an engine, you need to choose that engine. Once you get that done, then you can choose your car. So, if you have a Miata and you want to put an LS in a Miata, if you want to specifically put the LS engine into a Miata, you need to know that. Now, on the other hand, let's say you want to build a car, specifically a car for what it is. Let's say S13, S14, Tacoma, 4Runner, Miata, whatever it is, a Camaro, Corvette. You need to know the ins and outs of that car specifically. So for like a Tacoma, what are the pros, the cons? How does the engine bay look, right? Because now you're not really in tune to a specific engine. You're like, okay, the engine bay is this big. Maybe the V6 is going to be good for what I need. Are you building a rock crawler? You don't need that much power if you're building a rock crawler. You need gearing. So maybe the 3.4 V6 would be good in the Tacoma. Now, let's say you're building an S13 as a drift car. You're going to be bashing it a lot and you don't want to spend a lot of money. Probably a 5.3 LS would be a good combo for that car. A lot of guys don't want to do that. A lot of guys are purists. But if you just want to build the car and have fun with it, then the engine doesn't really matter. You just want something reliable. Now, if you're sacrilegious and you want to build a specific, like you want to keep it, if you're a purist and you want to keep whatever engine, SR20 in that thing for God knows what reasons you'd want to build an SR20. But let's say you want to build an SR20 and whatever S13 or whatever. Then, you're going to have to go down that route. But you need to plan out your project. So once you figure out what car or what engine you're running, you need to know the project itself. So are you building a resto, right? Are you going to keep it like NA, make everything nice? Or are you building like a turbo build, ITBs, supercharger, nitrous, high compression NA? You need to plan these things out. So, for example, let's say I was going to put a turbo V8 in this truck, like specifically a 1UZ turbo V8 in this Tacoma. The first thing I would do is I would go look at 1UZ V8s. I would go find one reliable, whatever. Once you get that, I want to figure out what turbo I want to run. I'll be looking at turbo sizing as well as the price of the turbo, because that's gonna, that's, a lot of us don't have a lot of money. We're not made out of money. Money is a big factor. So what is the spool characteristics that you're looking for? This truck isn't built to go fast. It's meant for low end torque. So I'm gonna go and choose a turbo that is gonna match what I need it to do. So it would specifically be a smaller turbo on the, especially on the turbine side, your AR housing. You don't want it to be 0.112, like an 88 millimeter turbo. That's going to take forever to spool. But if you do like a 6262 turbo with a 0.882 housing or something like that, 0.96 housing, that'll spool a lot faster than a 88 with like a 102 housing or 112 housing. So you need to plan out all these things. You need to know what turbo you're going to run. What about the exhaust on the turbo? So is it a V-band flange specifically? So talking about a turbo, this is a Garrett. Now, this is the thing that you need to know. Is it a oil-cooled turbo? So is there only a oil feed and oil return? Or are there water lines? Are you going to run water cooling on it? You need to know if it's a ball bearing or if it's a journal bearing turbo. That's gonna play a factor in what size of this orifice you put in this feed is, as well as the exhaust housing. Now, is it a V-band? Are you running a 4-bolt flange? What are you running on the back? Because you're gonna have to match that up. A lot of these little things are gonna hold you up on a project. Specifically, even for this green Tacoma, I'm waiting for a gasket. The truck's done. I'm actually just waiting for a gasket for that turbo. It's a 4-bolt flange, and I just need a 4-bolt gasket. And that's it. That wasn't provided to me. That wasn't given to me. So I had to order it. And now we're currently waiting for that bit, and the truck will be on its way. So you need to know that kind of stuff. So for like your turbos and stuff. Now, that's just for the turbo, the exhaust, the flanges, the gaskets. You need to know that kind of stuff. What about the routing? What about the intercooler? You need to figure out the intercooler size you're going to run. You're going to need to know the route of intercooler piping you're going to run. So where is the turbo piping going to be in the car? Are you running a blow-off valve? Are you running boost control, or are you running straight off of spring control? So off of like the wastegate. Now for the wastegate, are you going to run it? Are you going to run the wastegate screamer pipe straight to atmosphere, or are you going to run that back into the exhaust? That's all material that you need to buy. That's all things that you need to know before you do this, because if not, you're going to down your car, and your car is going to be down for a long time if not. Secondly, fuel pump. Right? You did your turbo, you did the whole exhaust, manifold, everything. Downpipe, turbo's done, you did all that stuff. What about your fuel pump? Do you know how big of a fuel pump you need? You need to go do research on that. How big of a fuel pump do you need to run in this turbo whatever? Can you run one fuel pump, or do you have to run 2 or 3? Are you going to run a surge tank? Are you running on a stock fuel tank with a surge tank outside? Are you running a fuel cell with a surge tank, with an inner surge tank? You need to know all these things. And prior to you even building the car, you need to at least buy all these basic things down, because that's the stuff that's going to hold you back. There's nothing more demoralizing than finishing a project that you're not finishing, but getting a project to where it's 80% done and you're 20%, like, you're still waiting on parts. What about engine management? Are you running the stock ECU that's been tuned? So for like the 3rd gen 4Runner, that has a stock ECU that was tuned by Quantum Auto. They removed the immobilizer out of that ECU. They've also tuned it for more fuel for more fuel, and they tuned the throttle on it. Are you running a standalone ECU or a piggyback? Which piggybacks aren't really a thing anymore. They're more of a thing in the early 2000s. But are you running a standalone, like a Haltech, Moltech, Fueltech? If you're running a Haltech, do you know how to do the wiring? And if you don't, do you know who knows how to do the wiring? If you do a Haltech, do you know a tuner? You need to know these things. So, you know, if you're gonna build a car, and let's say it's a 2JZ, and you have a reputable tuner around you in your area, you should go to that tuner and be like, hey, I'm building a 2JZ in my drift build, my Sylvia or whatever. What engine management would you recommend? And they might be like, you know, I like Haltech. You should get a Haltech Elite 2500. That's what I'm familiar with. So you're always gonna want to go with whatever your tuner is um, comfortable with. You know, you don't want to be like, hey, I put a Motec in it, give it to your tuner who only does Haltech, and they're gonna be like, okay, it's gonna be a bit, or they might not even do it. You know, they might not even do it if it's a different ECU that they're accustomed to. So, and I think the next thing after that is gonna be all the little things, all the things that you didn't account for. AN lines, you know, your all your AN bits, dash 4 AN, dash 6 AN. What size are you running for your fuel? You know, your oil drain, dash 10 AN. Are you gonna run, or like all your other like silicone lines, couplers, gaskets? These are all things that you should account for in your project car. There are going to be things that you just can't account for. There's I've never bought everything for a build and be like, okay, I'm done. I've always had to order something else, but I've always gotten better because I learn. So now it's like, hey, need I might account for only 3 feet of dash 6 AN fuel line, but I'm going to order 5 to 10 feet of dash 6 AN fuel line because I might need extra. You don't know. You might get your car running on that one fuel pump, and when you get into boost, you run out of fuel pump, and you're gonna have to stage a second fuel pump in. You know, you got to know, you got to account for all these different things. And then the last thing, I guess, when it comes to planning it is price. Now, price is a massive factor. I know a lot of people are kind of strapped with money nowadays. It's definitely not as abundant as before. That's something that you should really keep in mind when doing when a project car or a build, is that I know a lot of people who build vehicles to keep up with the Joneses, and they want to build a car super fast, or they want to just keep building a car and make it this and that and this and that and whatever. And the reality is the car is never done. Always take your time and plan it out. Get a sheet of paper up, you know, and like I was saying earlier, it's kind of turning into kind of redundant, but write out everything you want. What do you want in this build? Do you want just a nice driver, reliable, like my Lexus LS 400? That'll be a build in the future, but that car is not going to be something crazy. There's no turbo nitrous stuff going on. You know, I'm going to pull the engine out. We're going to refresh it and make it a good driver. I want it to be a good driving car. And that's it. That's what I want out of that car. The truck, big stuff coming for the truck, but you know, that's a lot different on the truck than on the Lexus, and I understand that, and I know that stuff takes time. So you need to list out all of these things. You need to list out, like, you know, what do you want? You should have a end goal in mind. You should see what your car or what your vehicle will look like, what the engine bay will look like. You need to have a end goal in mind because you're working toward that end goal. Now, if you're just going at it aimlessly, it's not going to work out. And you're going to be just throwing good money after bad money. Really, you're going to be spending way more money than you need to, and project's not going to get done. I know a lot of people who have project cars who have never really got it done because they've never really been committed. um it takes a certain amount of commitment, and as well as, don't if the car is giving you a hard time, and you know you're getting frustrated and whatever, park it, put it on the side, take a break, go do something else. You know, I've had times where, like on this truck or the Forerunner or a Land Cruiser or whatever, where I'm just like frustrated already, and I just put everything away. I walk away. I just walk away. I give it a week or so, and I come back, because you don't want to be sitting there just mad trying to work on your car. You're just gonna make more mistakes. So if you're getting frustrated, you're getting upset, you're getting mad, walk away. Go give yourself a break. Go do something else. Go mow the lawn. I don't know. Do whatever makes you happy. and then come back later on with a fresh mind, and you can go ahead and you can start that project again. But yeah, so that was kind of on a ramble session, really. There's 3 things you want to know in 2025 if you're building a car. What's your end vision? How you're going to get there? And what do you need? Those are the 3 things you need to really sit down and write down and do research. Go look at forums, go do research. People, if you've dreamt it, someone's probably done it already. And go ask. It doesn't, do any harm by asking them, or if you can get in touch with them, you can ask them. Asking people when they've built their car can give you a lot of insight when building your vehicle, because there's a lot of things that you might encounter that they already encountered, that you can be like, oh, okay, they did this and I'm gonna do this, so it's different. Well, that is it for this week's episode of Tech Tip Tuesdays. We are pretty much out of time. This is supposed to be a very short video, about 15 to 20 minutes. If you have any more questions, any more concerns on how to plan a project build in 2025, go ahead and leave a question in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to answer them accordingly. And stay tuned. This week, Friday, we're getting into the interior on the Tacoma. We're going to get the vinyl flooring done, and we're going to put some seats in and a couple other things into the Tacoma. But until next time, and as always, thanks for watching.